his own teammate ran flat into him like full speed and like knocked him the fuck out. And I was like, what the hell is happening here? Like,
My favorite stat line of the week is Bo Nix, 7 for 15 for -7 yards.
I do love Baker Mayfield. Don't get me wrong. I will dick ride him a little bit, but
Team,
damn, tell me how you really feel, Brian.
it's just a gut feeling. Okay, it's inside of me. This will not age well. Don't clip this.
Welcome back, everybody. This is the School of Hot Takes. We are back after a couple day break, and we are ready to discuss some football. There's been some great games that has happened over the past 2 weeks, and we are ready to get into them. We are ready with our hot takes, and we are ready to talk about some football. I'm here with my co-host Brian. Dylan is out today, but he will be back next week. Brian, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. Just watched the O's put up a very pitiful performance against the Kansas City Royals. Not even going to pretend to talk about baseball in this shit, but yeah, that was pretty unfortunate to watch. Hopefully, we get him game two. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good besides that.
Nice. Well, before we get into everything, I just want to remind everyone to make sure to like the video, subscribe, comment your hot takes where we go wrong, everything along those lines. We have our TikTok up and running. Make sure to get on there and like those videos. Just support us everywhere that you can. Spread the word, spread the love. We are here for it. I don't know about you, but I am ready to get into some hot takes here. My first and probably only hot take for the past 2 weeks is I think the Commanders are going to finish as the number one seed in the NFC by the end of the year.
Okay, explain that process, please. Explain how that's.
So I don't know if I've mentioned it here before yet, but I think Jaden Daniels is probably going to win Rookie of the Year. He's been playing really, really well. Their offense after week one has just been clicking. They've been doing really well. Their defense looks pretty strong. They're 3-1 now, which for Dylan's record of a 14-3 finish looks really good. But yeah, I think the Commanders have just done better than everyone has expected. They're going to continue to do good things. Their schedule isn't like overwhelmingly hard, which gives them a better chance to finish as the overall number one seed. I could still see them dropping a few games, but still think right now they are going to finish as the number one seed. I think they are currently number one in the NFC. I could be wrong. They might be like number two. Have just been impressing me this year, and I like what I'm watching and what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, the Commanders have been, I think, the most interesting story in the NFL here so far through a couple of weeks. I do have some takes brewing about the Commanders, so I don't want to speak. We do have a Commanders expert coming on the show next week to kind of
Mhm.
spoil a little bit of what we're going to be doing here soon. I'll share some of my takes then, but I will say, I mean, Jaden Daniels throwing, 84% completion rate, the highest through any four-game stretch in NFL history. Super impressive. He's showing that he's an athlete, super impressive. And the great thing about a guy like Jaden Daniels is he makes the entire team better. They've been looking really, really good. I do disagree still with you and Dylan that they're going to be that good. But if you're a Commanders fan, I don't even think you care about where they end the season because you're so happy
Right.
with starting the season. So I like the take, Mitch. I do like the take.
Thank you. Yeah, I will say I at the beginning of the season I was not very high on the Commanders. I was thinking maybe below 500, and they could still finish at that. But from what I've seen so far, I've just been more impressed than anything.
Yeah. All right. My hot take of the week. There's a lot of ways that I thought about going with this one. The take that I decided to settle into is one that I've been feeling. It's just a gut feeling. Okay. It's inside of me. I feel like, despite the fact that we've been seeing one Justin Fields ball out of control, I feel like Russell Wilson will, in fact, play some games for the Steelers this year. I do think that there will be a time where Justin Fields will kind of look a little bit out of his element in a close game.
Mhm.
He gets hurt. I think Russell Wilson steps in. I think we could see a situation where Russell Wilson is able to win the competitive and the close games just because of his
Right.
experience. Now, this is kind of a flip of a take that I had at the beginning of the season when Russ was expected to start. I was like, oh, I think that Justin Fields will eventually touch the field, even though
Right.
Russ is supposed to be the starter. I just think you have these two guys that have high ceilings and low floors. I would not be surprised if Tomlin kicks the tires on Russ if Justin Fields starts to struggle. I think that's why he has not really been committed to Justin Fields. He
Mhm.
says at the end of the game, yeah, Justin Fields is our starter next week. He doesn't say he's our season starter. He's like, oh, next week. So I think that means that Justin Fields, just like I said about Russell Wilson, has a very short lease. It'll take a few fuck ups to get him benched, but I see Russell Wilson starting for the Steelers at some point this season. So Mitch, let me know what you think.
I just got to ask, is Russ still like listed as the starter but being benched for injury? Like, is that the situation with him still?
So here's the thing. That's what's interesting about this, right? Is that Russell Wilson has technically been injured, out with an
Mhm.
injury, not been participating in practices fully for the first 4 weeks of the season.
Right.
He is expected to, for the first time, be 100% healthy. And obviously, Justin Fields is going to start week 5. Like, it's not like it's up in the air.
Yeah.
Justin Fields will start over Russell Wilson. That's not in the question. But it is interesting to note that this is the first time that Russ is even healthy
Mhm.
and would even have a chance to be in the game and will practice with the ones and stuff like that since the offseason. So, I think Justin Fields took the job for the moment. But like I
Right.
said,
It,
due to injury or due to some classic Justin Fields,
fuckery.
yeah, some general fuckery that we've seen from Fields in the past. I think Russell Wilson will get to see some game time with the Steelers. And
Mhm.
honestly, I'm not mad at it. I liked the Steelers' game plan coming into the season. Again, two low floor, high ceiling quarterbacks. I like that strategy. Two guys that I think would be fun to watch in their own ways. So I'm not mad at it. I just think it's something that we will see happen. Steelers fans are getting way too cocky seeing
Right.
Justin Fields hit 6 yards and six rushing. Yeah,
So one thing I want to pose to you though, say Russell Wilson comes in like week 6 or 7 or something. How does the Steelers offense adjust to that? I mean, they've been with Fields now for, you know,
right.
4 going on 5 weeks. Is it going to be because Russ's mobility and his play style is completely different than Justin Fields's right now?
I think obviously we're both Steelers fans,
Right.
Pittsburgh fans, so we follow the team a little bit closer than we do most other teams. But it was interesting to see how I think the offense the Steelers have run, in particular with the first 3 weeks of the season, I think was just the Russell Wilson game plan, but for Justin.
Mhm.
I think what Russell Wilson is going to give you that Fields may not necessarily give you is he's going to give you extremely accurate passes, probably nothing super deep, but he's going to be accurate. He's going to be consistent. He's really only going to scramble to
Right.
extend a play. He's not going to run out of the pocket. And so I think in the first couple of weeks of the season, we were seeing what a Russell Wilson offense would look like. I think last week is the first time that we saw what Tomlin would cook up for Justin Fields, which is getting his legs running. And it was
Mhm.
really to hear Justin Fields actually talk about that on Saturday in the pregame press conference where he said, I think I need to use my legs more. And I think that was a sign that Tomlin gave him the green light that, like, hey, this is what you're good at. Let's figure out how we can get this in the game plan.
Yeah.
So I think that that's kind of what it would look like. I think that's why I'm not too concerned about it happening. I just think
Mhm.
Justin Fields is prone to some silly little mistakes,
Right.
and Russell Wilson, we could see him come in and play really well or play bad. I don't know. We're going to see him in black and
Yeah.
gold here
If
soon.
if we see the Broncos type Russell Wilson, it might be a little bit concerning, but
Yeah, I don't. He wasn't. I mean, maybe this is a hot take for another day, but I don't think he was ever that bad. I think he was a little bit underrated when he was with the Broncos. He
right.
definitely was his old self.
So let's get into our game of the week here, Brian. I think we both talked about it a little off screen, but the Packers Vikings game for us was both impressive and interesting at the same time. I mean, I'm interested to get your takes from it, but I have a few key moments and points I want to discuss on a little bit. But what was your initial like thoughts of the game? I should say.
Yeah, I think this was a week that to family and friends I was talking about, well, this is the week that we're going to see those undefeated scrub teams kind of crash to earth. It just seemed like
Mhm.
the writing on the wall that, the Steelers would probably lose, the Commanders would probably struggle, the Vikings would lose against a rival Packers team that was bringing back their quarterback. But,
Right.
you know, the, the Vikings hung up 28 points unanswered to start this game. And I don't know, they look like an actual Super Bowl contender for the first time this year, in my opinion. I know that they've
Yeah.
been better teams, but this is the first time that I've actually seen them play and been like, yeah, this could be a playoff game, and I would like totally believe that if this Vikings team just
Mhm.
moved them right over. Like Sam Darnold was accurate. He was working well under pressure. Obviously, and we're going to talk about it here in a second, probably Justin Jefferson, dude. He's nuts. He's nuts. There's
He's
nothing else
good.
to say about it. He is absolutely freaky deaky. He's crazy. So it was really exciting to see them kind of click on all cylinders like we haven't seen them before. The defense has always been good as long as
Mhm.
Brian Flores has been there with those special blitz packages, but you
Yep.
know, it's just really looked amazing, man. I'm really excited for the Vikings here, and I'm glad that the Packers are not just going to run away with the division like everyone
Right.
assumed. I think that team is way weaker than everybody else predicted. I think Jordan
Mhm.
Love is overrated, as we talked about in our quarterback episode, and I think he got exposed a little bit today. I think Josh Jacobs is incredibly overrated. I think the receiving core was incredibly overrated. I think their defense is incredibly overrated outside of Jair Alexander. So I not to say they're a bad team. I
Damn.
think
Tell me how you
very
really feel, Brian.
well. I just think they're overrated, maybe. But but I think Jair Alexander is really good, and they have some good
Yeah.
pieces. They have some good offensive linemen.
Mhm.
Jay Reed looks like he's probably going to be a stud in the NFL. He's a little bit of a niche player because he's working mostly in a slot right now, but they are extremely overrated. And I think
Mhm.
that the fact that people assumed that the Packers were going to step up and, they were going to beat the Lions and they were going to be better than the Caleb Williams Bears and they were going to be better than
Mhm.
the Sam Darnold or JJ McCarthy Vikings, I think was a little bit of an overreaction to six good
So
games last year.
I will say I don't know that it was quite an overreaction because I think the Packers beat themselves on in the first half. Like if they had even scored a field goal, this is a completely different game. Like the Vikings were the better team at the end of the day. They had obviously better first half offensively and defensively. They just sort of like what you said, almost exposed Jordan Love there. But I think if he had
Yeah.
just not made those two interceptions in the first half, I think,
He ended
or
with three.
he ended with three. I know he had at least one in the first half, but if he even like just got within field goal range and they got that, I mean, there it's a 32-31 game. You never know or what happens there at the end of the half. So I think it was more the Packers beat themselves the first half rather than the Vikings like dominating the game. The Vikings were at the end of the day clearly the better team. I think next time they play again this season, I think the Vikings are going to be the favorites to win. But yeah, this Justin Jefferson touchdown here, I don't know how he caught this. I watched this and I was like, wait, he actually caught that? Like, I think it phased through the Packers guy. It was
Yeah, I was gonna say that was the comparison I was making. Is I don't know if you have ever played Madden, but
mhm,
sometimes Madden, when you throw a pass, the animation will just have the ball go through a defender,
just
and
like
it'll just
glitched through
end
him. Like,
up. Yeah, it'll just end up in a receiver's hands, and they'd have caught it, and you're
right,
like, okay, that's absolute bullshit. And then
right.
you watch Justin Jefferson do it in real life, absolutely crazy, man.
It's
Like,
it was ridiculous. When he caught that, I was like, "Holy fucking shit! What happened here?"
Mitch, watch your mouth. This is a
God.
family friendly sports, but I'm
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I mean, if they're doing things like that, man, like this
Yeah.
Packers team is going to be fine. I mean,
Mhm.
if you're the Packers, you're also looking at the fact that like, hey, you had a quarterback coming off an injury and you made him throw the ball 55 times. Like that's
Right.
kind of crazy too.
Yeah.
So if you're in the NFC, you should be very, very afraid of the Vikings and the potential that they have because they have the best
Mhm.
receiver in football. They maybe have the best all around defense in football. They are a very scary team. And I think that's why we kind of
Well,
put this as our game of the week, too.
their
Mhm.
whole receiving core last week was just all over, not like in a bad way all over the place, but I mean like spread out. Like it wasn't just Justin Jefferson. I mean Jordan Addison got the ball, Aaron Jones, Jalen Naylor. It was spread out everywhere. So even if you tried covering Justin Jefferson like double coverage, like they always had an out route or something along those lines. Like even a short dump play just to someone, like someone was always available. I think they're utilizing that to their advantage 100%.
Yeah, I think they're an exciting team to watch. And I think if I want to be even vaguely positive about the Packers, what I will say is, again, there's a lot that they could have done better. I believe their rookie kicker missed like two field goals, like Mitch said.
Mhm.
That obviously changes the game a little
Right.
bit. And obviously, you're rushing back. I don't know, dude, why was Jordan Love playing in this game in the first place? I don't understand. He was hurt. He should have been out.
Yeah.
That's beyond me. And I think obviously it's not like he played bad enough that I'm going to sit here and be like, that's what lost them the game. But it is a little bit of a
Right.
questionable decision by LaFleur. But
Yeah. One other positive from the Packers is their safety, Xavier McKinney. He now has 4 interceptions on the season, one in each game. So that's at least a bright side on defense for them. Obviously, it's hard to keep that up all season with an interception a game. But if he's at least able to be putting himself in those situations to make those interceptions or those knockdowns or that coverage, that's obviously a bright spot for them on defense where hopefully they aren't getting like killed.
yet another superstar that the New York Giants decided not to pay a really amazing
Right.
safety for them. They're doing great, I'm sure. Let's not even talk about the
Right.
Giants.
But one thing I want to talk on before we move on from the game of the week, is there a point where we have to like give up on Sam Darnold, or is he it? Like, is he the guy? Like,
Yeah.
is Sam Darnold just playing good? Like I mentioned a couple episodes ago, is this going to be like a Minshew mania or, Fitzmagic thing for like 4 or 5 games and then he fades off? Like, or is
Yeah.
this actually going to be like him all season? Like,
Yeah. I think the Vikings are in a really good situation where they have JJ McCarthy waiting in the wings. I would not be
mm,
surprised if they back Sam Darnold for on like a 2-year contract and kind of say, hey, JJ McCarthy, you're going to get another year to rehab. Sam Darnold's going to be here for a year, and next year will really be an important year for him. Like
right.
if Sam Darnold can repeat his performance here so far through 4 games through the rest of the season and for another year, then
Mhm.
we actual stud QB in our wings. And I think the thing that I've seen brought up a couple of times that it's not really being talked about on like mainstream NFL sources, but Sam Darnold is really young. Like he's younger
Right.
than Joe is something that I've seen some of like those underground NFL shows and news sources talk about is that Sam Darnold is really young, younger
Mhm.
than Joe Burrow, obviously younger than guys like Baker Mayfield and some of those older veteran quarterbacks, but he's not by any means an old man in the league, even though he's
Right.
been in the league forever. The situation is just that he was drafted at like 20 or 21 years old. So he was drafted super young
Mhm.
and has been on some bad teams. Like he was on the
Yeah.
Jets for his career. I think, you want to hear a not so hot take. I think Adam Gase is one of the worst people to ever coach any sport ever.
Right.
Actively ruined so many careers, and Sam Darnold is one that he just set Sam Darnold back so long. And so,
Mhm.
Sam Darnold can replicate what he's doing, he will have a starting job, whether it's
Oh,
in Minnesota.
100%.
I think that is a really good question. I think again, it's one of those things where if you're a Vikings fan, you're not even thinking about that right now. You're just
Right.
riding by the fact that somehow through 4 weeks, the MVP would probably be fucking Sam Darnold.
Which is crazy to even think of at this time. Like,
Yeah, and it's I don't even think it's close right now. I think Dylan, who's not here, has mentioned that before. He's also been like it's Sam Darnold, and it's not close. Like there's not really
yeah,
anybody having that conversation. So, I mean, hey, that's good for him, I guess. Fuck, I don't
yeah. I mean,
I don't have any opinion on Sam Darnold. That's good for him. That's all I gotta say. He's a good
yep.
guy. Sure, probably. This will not age well. Don't clip this.
But yeah, let's get into some other games of the week here that we want to just touch base on.
Yeah, some honorable
Honorable
mention.
mention.
Mitch, you put this terrible fucking Broncos Jets game on the board here, so go ahead. Tell me why you found that game interesting.
Yeah, I found it interesting because I touched on this in one of my Thursday night episodes, and I thought Aaron Rodgers and the Jets looked really, really good. They looked like they were flowing well, like they had the chemistry there. Defensively, they looked great. Offensively, they were just clicking. Like, I don't know what happened. I know it was a rainy game, colder weather. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. That shouldn't even be like a big excuse for why they just played so poorly. Like, no one was standing out, no one was doing great. And the Broncos didn't even do really anything exciting either. Like it was a 10-9 game. I more threw this up here as an honorable mention because of the rapid regression, I guess, for the Jets. Like it was just odd to me, and I wanted to just pick your brain on why you think that might have happened or what's going on here with them. I know you said just a little bit ago Adam Gase is just a fucking moron, but
Yeah, I think, I mean, So first of all, this game in particular, I don't want to get too into the weeds on it, just because I did watch a decent amount of this game. The rain, man, the rain was really bad. It was maybe one of the worst weather games I've ever watched. And I think people aren't really talking about that. Again, if you were not
Mm.
watching the game, you would look at the stat line and be like, "What the hell happened?"
Right.
But pouring down rain, it was like a sloppy field. Like it was pretty rough. I think at one point my favorite stat line of the week is Bo Nix 7 for 15 for -7 yards.
Yeah, I saw that too. That was funny.
That's an all-time stat line. I don't care. To average a -1 yard, and it would make sense if it was like, okay, 2 passes, 2 completions, -7. How do you throw 7 completions
Right.
and in the negatives? That makes no sense to me, dude. But yeah, I think the biggest problem with the Jets right now, and this was one of the things that I was considering for my hot takes, and I held back on it, but I'll give it here. I think that the Jets coaching staff really sucks, dude. I think it's really bad. I think Hard Knocks from, I guess that was what, last year. Last year's Hard Knocks, a lot of people kind of got endeared to Robert Saleh because he's a
Mhm.
charismatic guy. I think Nathaniel Hackett is a guy who has done decent in his role of OC and has kind of, again, endeared himself to the fans because he's a tough talking, shit talking, little pissant.
Yeah.
I, I think overall, those coaches have not actually shown that they are really capable of like building a team. And were carried last year by an amazing defense. And
Mhm.
this defense has kind of slowed down. And now it's like, holy shit, the Jets are completely stalling. They
Yeah.
had an amazing
It's
game with the Patriots, but it's the Patriots, dude. Like
right.
the Broncos are a step up from the Patriots, and you looked terrible again. I mean, the rain obviously is huge, but the rain affected the
Right.
Broncos. So it's not,
Exactly. And that's like you can't blame all of it on the rain because like both teams had that negative factor. Like
yeah, yeah. And I think they're doing, something that I saw the Steelers do last year a little bit, where it's like Braylon Allen looks like the better back, and
mhm.
they're forcing Brees into bad looks and then giving their backup these really good looks. And it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. You
Yeah.
have Garrett Wilson doesn't look like he's himself right now. Like Garrett Wilson's a guy that I believe in my heart of hearts is a top 10 receiver if he has
Mhm.
a quarterback. And this is just not the quarterback play that I was promised.
Right.
And it sounds like Aaron Rodgers is holding himself accountable and is admitted that he's not doing his best right now. But I think that it's not really on Aaron Rodgers. If I'm going to be honest, I'd love to put it on him. I would love to sit here and bash that weird anti-vaxxer, but I actually can't do that because I don't think
Yeah.
it's really his fault at the moment. I think it's the coaching. So that's the big takeaway from this game is Salah should
Mhm.
be fired, dude. And it's really unfortunate because you're basically wasting this era of the Jets. Like you're
Right.
wasting Sauce Gardner, Quinnen Williams, Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall. Like you're wasting those guys as primes on a coach that is not a Super Bowl contending coach.
Yeah. And it's just unfortunate because the Jets are going to get these random good games where they're going to win by 20 points, and then next week they'll have a game like this where it's a 3 point
Yeah,
loss or a 7 point loss, and I think they're just going to yo-yo like that all season maybe, and it's just unfortunate because like the Jets, how they're built player wise, like they should have a good team, but like you said, I think coaching is just holding them down.
yeah. I think my record prediction, I had them 8-9. I'm
Mhm.
staying on with that. All right, moving on to the next game here. Bucks Eagles. This was again another game that you picked out for us. Is this just a chance to dick ride Baker Mayfield, or is there something more interesting?
Not particularly. I do love Baker Mayfield. Don't get me wrong. I will dick ride him a little bit, but he had a really really good first half. I feel like this is sort of similar to the Vikings Packers game where it was like a tale of two halves in a sense. Buccaneers were held to 10 points, I think, in the second half, or 7 points or something like that. They
Yeah,
were basically shut down in the second half, and the Eagles came back and scored 16 or 13. The similarities were there. Baker had a really good first half, not so great second half, but he looked good overall. The Eagles, I think goes back to coaching again with them. Like they're just falling apart. They have the great talent to do something and they don't utilize it. I mean, they had AJ Brown and Devonta Smith out this week, so I mean there was that issue, but also I don't know if it's just something recently, but like the Eagles are 1-7 against the Bucks in recent history. So I mean,
Yeah,
there's that as well. Like there's just something when they play the Buccaneers. But this game was just interesting. This was a game I pretty much watched this past week. So there were some really good plays. The weather was very hot as well. So I don't know if that affected the Eagles. Like I think the average temperature was like 105 or something. So that's
yeah.
always tough conditions to play in. Two other things I wanted to point out. Cooper DeJean, I don't know if you watched any of the
I
game highlights from this game, but he got fucked up on his
yeah,
punt returning. Like it was bad.
I don't know why they have him returning punts. I mean, he's an athlete, so I think that's.
Mhm.
But like, I mean, I don't know. I didn't watch a lot of Iowa games in college. I definitely wasn't watching Cooper DeJean punt return highlights in college, so I don't know if he's like used to that. But I saw him out there, and I was like, why are they doing that? I like
Right.
has to
It,
be something better to be doing that.
he looks unnatural. And the two plays that I'm going to talk about here, the one he got his teammate pushed the Buccaneers guy right into him, just flat out pushed him into Cooper. And then the other one, his own teammate ran flat into him like full speed and like knocked him the fuck out. And I was like, what the hell is happening here? Like, I felt bad for him in a sense, but like, I don't think they're utilizing him right on that team. Like he needs to do something besides return punts. And I don't know what that is at the current situation. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on in this game was the continued split reps between Rashad White and Bucky Irving. My Rashad White take continues to laugh in my face, but
It's funny that I don't. Again, this is a game that I didn't watch super closely, but it's how did they end up with the exact same stat line?
I know I saw that. I was in like 10 rushes, 49 yards,
Bucky
and like
had the
and he had the touchdown. Bucky had the touchdown, but
was cool, but I mean that is wild. I think you're right though. When you watch them, one of those guys is clearly built a little bit differently. So
right.
like you, they have the same stat line, but like Bucky is out there making guys miss. He's
Mhm.
initiating contact and kind of driving through. And then you have Rashad White, who it's like he's got to be in open space because once he gets touched, he's going down. Like he's a
Right.
feather.
He has no like after contact like rushing
Um,
possession or anything. Like he
right,
just like he goes down like, and it's unfortunate. His upside is that he is able to catch the ball like
right, right.
and that's
He's good at that. He should be doing that full time. He should not be running the ball. I mean, even 10 times.
yeah, I think it's too many. Like they need to just sort of shift that focus onto Bucky Irving at this point. Maybe utilize Rashad White on a couple like 3rd-and-1 plays or something like that if they need that, or 3rd-and-inches or something along those lines. But like you really should be using Rashad White at this point as like a check down running back and just hope
Yeah,
to get like 5, maybe 10 yards or something along those lines. But
yeah, I agree.
yeah, Bucky
I think,
Irving is definitely the clear favorite here going forward.
yeah, I think the only thing I want to touch on this game is, again, not to sound like a broken record here, the coaching for the Eagles, man, is so bad. My
Right.
my hot take last time we talked 2 weeks ago was immediately following the Eagles' loss to the Falcons, and I said that Sirianni should be fired. And here
Mhm.
again, saying Sirianni should be fired. The Eagles did terrible in the pass game, and despite that, they threw it 30 times. Saquon Barkley had an amazing 59-yard run.
Yeah, that was crazy. He like outran everyone. It was nuts.
Yeah, and you know
He's
what?
fast.
He also only had 10 carries in that game. So it's
Right.
insane that he is able to kind of get that explosive energy into the offense when your two
Mhm.
star players are out, and they didn't really lean on that. They leaned on
Right.
Jalen Hurts throwing Dallas Goddard checkdowns and throwing Paris Campbell checkdowns, and it
Right.
just really make a whole lot of sense to me. I'll give again Jalen Hurts credit. I think an injury that we aren't talking about is Lane Johnson was out there,
Mhm.
long time, 10-plus year veteran superstar right tackle was out for this game as well. I think he's a huge part of this defense. He's a bit injury prone as of the past couple of years, so it was a concern coming into the season, and they
Mhm.
didn't address the backup position at tackle. So they had a practice squad dude out there, Fred Johnson, I believe, who was
Yeah.
famously. was part of the worst offensive line in the league when he was with the Bengals that year that they lost the Super Bowl. Was the right tackle that started against the Chiefs. Just not a good decision by the Eagles to bring him in to replace Lane Johnson. Not a good decision by Sirianni to lean away from using Saquon Barkley in the run game. And
Their best player that they have currently. Like, why are you shying away from that?
yeah, I don't really understand Nick Sirianni. At this point, I am Nick Sirianni's number one hater. I feel like he's not getting enough shit from Eagles fans either. I feel like
Right.
they're like, oh well, he got us to the playoffs. He got us to the playoffs, and like,
Yeah,
dude, he's making like he is single handedly has
bad.
lost you at least one game this year. I think he's probably lost you this game. So the fact that you could
Mhm.
be, if you had a decent coach, you'd be 4-0. If you
Right.
had a good coach, you'd be 4-0. And you have a bad coach and you're 2-2,
Mhm.
and it's looking pretty fucking miserable. So I'm going to jump right into this game here, which my honorable mention pick for game of the week, which was Jags Texans. And I think this is another team that people are talking a lot about. It's the Jaguars being 0-4, the worst team in the league.
Right.
So just a team that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I think, again, the coach is getting a lot of blame for this. But me personally, I don't even know if it's 100% the coach. I just
I
think
don't think so either.
Trevor Lawrence is not that guy. I think the defense is not that impressive either. I think they will end up firing the coach because they need to. It's obviously everyone's talking about how it's the job everyone wants. Everyone wants to coach Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence has had good coaches in the past, and like obviously he went to Clemson. Like that's was a prestigious school when he was there. It was an amazing football school when he was there. He had some
Mhm.
great thing there. I just don't I don't think that he's like that. I don't think he's
Right.
got it in
He's
him.
not making, like, flashy plays or, like, smart decisions that everyone's thinking he should. Like, he's just playing bad football in general, and like you said, they'll probably end up firing the coach because they need to just do something or change up the flow or something along those lines. Like, I don't know that that's it necessarily the issue, though, like, and, like, how you touched on the defense isn't playing well, there's just holes everywhere, they're letting up easy plays, like, the
Yeah.
rush defense is abysmal, their pass defense is just all over the place. They can't do anything. Like it's
Yeah. Arizona offense, from what I watched, were rookie receiver Brian Thomas. Shout out to Brian Thomas. Love that name. Uh,
Mhm.
and also shout out to Tank Bigsby, another name I
Yep.
love. Tank Bigsby. Those were the two players that did the best. So it's rookie receiver and a second year running back behind, like, again, your first round pick, Travis Etienne from a couple years back. Like, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Well, maybe it is the coaching because I'm not like I'm watching. I'm like they're winning. Like they're at one point they were winning,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's just like nothing is clicking, and they
Mhm.
fall apart so quickly and so hard that they almost fell apart. And I think the other thing that I wanted to note here is on the Texans side of the ball. I think Nico Collins is in that conversation, man. I think he's in the conversation. I think we need to start talking about him like he's a top 5 receiver.
Yeah, he's just impressed from last season to this season. He's not dipped on his quality of play or his stat line, really. The only thing is, though, the Texans aren't, I guess, as flashy as they were last year. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, but for
I dis-
Nico Collins,
I
like,
disagree.
really?
I
Okay.
do. I think so. In terms of, I think the flashiness that you're talking about is C.J. Stroud deep bombs,
Not
but
even necessarily the deep bombs, but it's like their overall offensive domination, I guess. Like, I feel like this season they've had more close games than anything. Like they haven't been like killing the teams they're playing. You know what I mean?
yeah, I think again. So I'll speak to this game, a game that I think was the perfect Texans game. Like if you're a Texans fans, you want them to play like this every week. They had Nico Collins, I believe, had like 11 catches. Nico Collins has just been on a tear. Like we just said, he's in that conversation for top 5 this year. I think by the time we get to next offseason, I'm going to be talking so highly about him. He's got massive hands, massive wingspan. He's
Hmm.
strong shit. Like he's a really impressive guy. But in terms of like getting people involved, like the beginning of this season, they had Joe Mixon, and without Joe Mixon, they've been able to kind of feed Dare Ujunwable and what's his name, Cam Akers. They were able to feed those two guys, and the run offense hasn't been as good, but they're able to get things going and pick up 5 yards here and there, some chunk
Right.
plays, get touchdowns. Dare in particular is really good in the pass game. He's really good on third down passing situations. He's
Hmm.
like every time I watch the Texans, he gets a third down conversion on like a curl route or some shit.
Right.
In this game, you also had Stephon Diggs kind of going back, and they're using him like a gadget player, which is really interesting because he was not used as a gadget player in Minnesota or Buffalo. He
Right.
was used as the dominant WR1. They send him downfield. They have him do all the hot routes, and that's it. And
Hmm.
here you had him play a snap at quarterback. You had him catch screens. You had him do this really interesting jet sweep that kind of turned into a post route that he caught and almost took to the house in this game. It was a really impressive usage of Stephon Diggs because he's not the WR1 anymore. He's the WR2. And seeing him kind of fill that role has been really exciting to watch. Then obviously you have Dalton Schultz and Tank Dell kind of
Hmm.
play safety valves for CJ Stroud, and you had a defense that was able to get pressure on the quarterback, and Derek Stingley is looking like he could be a stud. So I think all around, this is a team where there's not one particular player balling the fuck out. Like last year, we saw
Right.
it was Stroud. Stroud was making Nico look good. Stroud was making Tank look good. He was balling out. But the defense outside of like Will Anderson was pretty mid. This
Hmm.
year, almost every player on the field for the Texans in this game in particular was playing at their peak. Like it was really exciting to watch.
But
It was
that's where my concern is, though. If they're playing at
yeah.
their peak and they're barely winning 24-20 and losing, what was it, 10-0 at one point? Like, uh, is that
Yeah,
is that a Super Bowl winning team? You know what I mean?
so they had some mistakes early in this game that put them down. I believe they had like a muffed punt or two.
Hmm.
Uh, muffed the punt, but it was a pretty egregious muffed punt that I was like, okay, yeah, that's like you can't do
Yeah.
that. And then obviously, like I said, like Brian Thomas and Tank Bigsby in the first half were amazing, and then Travis Etienne comes
Mhm.
back and get the run game going. Like that's as easy as it gets. Like it doesn't really make sense how the Jaguars are able to collapse like that, but they did. Yes, this game was closer than it probably should have been, but I think this is the Texans team that you're going to want going forward. Like you want them to get Diggs involved in some trickery. You want them to get Nico Collins to just like have him be a nuclear bomb and blow shit up. And
Mhm.
then you want the defense to be able to win at every level. And there's not a lot of defenses right now that are winning at every single level. You got like maybe the Vikings, Steelers, Jets when they want to, and that's about it. And then the Texans are doing it. They're getting pressure. They're wrapping up in the linebacker core, and then their secondary is kind of playing. Yeah, they're still a Super Bowl contender in my opinion. I think they're
Yeah,
obviously maybe fourth in the ranking here in the AFC, but they're up
yeah,
there.
I think they're still favorites to win the AFC South, I believe. But I don't know. They might be like the third or fourth seed based on like their division win going into the playoffs. Just I have that feeling. I don't know that they'll be number one or two. I could see them being like three or four seed. So
It's time to hide your dad's belts far away, 'cause it's report card day.
All right, so we decided this is going to be a segment that we want to do. We'll try and do it maybe like every 4 weeks. I think is a good amount of time just to check
right.
up on our takes. A lot of people in sports, one of my least favorite things about sports media is that people kind of just get on whatever podcast or news or tweet and they just say some random bullshit and then they have a good time and then they never talk about it again.
And it
And
just gets
you can
forgotten. Like
and yeah, you can spit out 100 takes and takes that contradict each other, and nobody cares. But we're
mhm.
going to hold ourselves accountable with our hot takes. We're going to hold each other accountable for our hot takes. And so that is what we do every couple of weeks with our School of Hot Takes report card. And my first take that I would like to look back on fondly is Marvin Harrison Jr. as an A minus on the report card. I think I nailed it right on the head. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. has come out and he is immediately a difference maker in the offense. He looks like the best player on the field every time he's on the field. I think his usage is a bit bad. It's keeping him
Mhm.
from plus. I think Kyler Murray needs to target him a little bit more and they need to get him more involved naturally and not just let him out there and tear it up. But he's pretty much destined to get an amazing catch once a week. And he's
Yep.
destined to get a huge run once a week.
Yeah,
He's
this
always
was
looking really, really good. He's a solid WR1 in that offense. And I think I'm going to compare him a little bit to Jamar Chase in the Bengals offense. I think he's going to be able to take that Cardinals team to the next level. And I think he's already shown that.
Yeah, this is one of your better takes,
Oh,
obviously. But yeah, he's been very good, I think, as everyone expected him to be. I feel like, sort of like you said, just needs to get more involved in the plays. I don't know if it's just that he's on the Cardinals right now and that team just hasn't been like performing well. Like, I mean, the Cardinals are 1-3, so that it doesn't help that he's on like a losing team. I think once the Cardinals figure out how to utilize him best in the offense, I feel like they're still experimenting a little bit, which I feel at this point, just throw him the fucking ball. He's gonna make the catch. Like
right.
he's one of those elite wide receivers that he can make those plays if he's given the opportunity, but they're just not giving it to him.
Right. I mean, yeah, he's huge. He's 6'4", 205. I used to always joke when I saw him at Ohio State that he, despite being that big, plays very soft and light and kind of floats around. And we're seeing that now here with the Cardinals, where he'll just magically be open somehow
Right.
and will make an amazing catch. Just some stats to kind of support that. Right now, Marvin Harrison Jr. is tied for first in receiving touchdowns and is 17th in receiving yards, despite only having 27 targets, which I think is an amazing stat through 4 games. That's about 27 is through 4 weeks. That's about 6 targets a game. And he's
Yeah.
already leading the league in touchdowns and is almost a top 16 receiver in yards. And that includes a game where he got targeted 4 times in the first quarter and then was not targeted again for 3 quarters.
Right.
Because the Cardinals, I think, were blowing out the Rams or something. But yeah, he's looked really, really good. I think he's going to keep it up. And if this is his floor, we're in for a real treat watching Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, I think he's got a long, successful career to be had. So, but jumping into Rashad White here, we touched on it earlier, one of the hot takes that I had that keep laughing at my face. I
Yeah.
currently have it
You have,
listed as,
I will say, you have quite a few that you could have picked from here. So
I
I'm glad.
know, but I have to continue to say this one because it just proves me wrong week to week. Yeah, I give him a D plus. This year is just not doing well. I had him as the 6th best running back in our rating episode. He's just not performed like I thought he would. Thought he was going to take maybe that next leap, that next step. I thought the Buccaneers' offensive line got better. I didn't think they'd be using Bucky Irving as much as they are. I thought they'd more lightly phase in Bucky Irving or, maybe sit him more in favor of letting Rashad White shine. Obviously, that's not panning out. Bucky Irving's probably going to be taking over the majority of the shares by the end of the season. And Rashad White, like we've touched on already multiple times, just if he gets touched, he goes down. He's not that power driver that everyone, or that I at least thought he was going to be. His best utilization is a pass catching running back at this point. Like being used as an actual running back has been very abysmal and disappointing to see. Like I said, I thought he was just going to have a better season, but win some, you lose some. I mean, I can't, just bad take from me. Got to own it though.
I appreciate you owning this. I'm not going to lie, Mitch. This was a take that I knew was going to immediately. I'm not confident in a lot of things. This was a take where as soon as we talked about it, I was like, yeah, that's going to age really poorly. And I'm glad that we're able to own it up here now.
I had at least some hopeful upside though. Like I did say, the Bucks did upgrade on the offensive line, and I thought this might have been a standout year for him. And it doesn't happen for every player, and this obviously Rashad White wasn't the guy to do that. So got to take your losses when they come. So
yeah. Well, speaking of a loss, I won't call this one a loss right now, but I have Caleb Williams on my report card, and I think I have him kind of at a C plus range here. I was pretty high on Caleb Williams. Speaking of a player that I overranked a little bit, Caleb Williams I had, I believe, at the 8th best quarterback's position. The reason that this is a C and not an F or a D is that the things that I'm seeing Caleb Williams do, he's playing like a rookie. And obviously, hey, guess what? he's a rookie, so he's allowed to play like a rookie. So that's fine. And I don't think that I'm necessarily super nervous that this is going to be his career. Right now, he is 5th in attempts and 21st in yards and 24th in touchdowns and 4th in interceptions. Those are really, really bad stats, but those are rookie stats. Those sound like rookie stats. You know, famously, he gets compared a lot to like Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's rookie year was just all around pretty terrible. I'm not too worried about this long term, but I do think I overrated him coming into his first season. I think I was a little bit excited because I saw what he was doing at USC, and I was like, wow, this is a guy who's clearly going to the NFL. Like, he's ready for the NFL. To be fair, the things that he was doing at USC, he's still able to do. The competition is higher, though. The competition is way higher. So those moves where he's like, and I've been prepared to defend Caleb Williams for a long time. So I think he gets a lot of shit for the fact that he throws these picks, but he is maneuvering in that pocket like nobody else is able to do right now. He is spinning out of sacks, and he is moving up and stepping up back in the pocket, but then he's throwing a pick. Or he's breaking 4 or 5 sacks and then literally getting sacked because it's like there's nobody blocking on his offensive line. And so it's not all his fault, but those are things that he'll have to learn how to do a little bit better. I kind of remember, Justin Fields was a bit like this early in his career. Lamar Jackson was like this in his career, where it's like you're back in the pocket and you're able to get out of the pressure, but then you're so anxious almost that you do some stupid shit because you don't want to get sacked, and you think that you just made a crazy play and you launch it downfield, and that's not really a good move.
Yeah.
I'll also say Caleb Williams is improving week to week. I think he'll continue to improve week to week. I think his biggest problem right now is that he stares down his hot route. He missed a wide open touchdown to DJ Moore because he just stared it down the entire time and then
focused.
Yeah, like hyper focused on getting that right, and then you overthrew it because you were under pressure and you didn't make the right read, which was probably to take a check down in that situation. So you either have to make the crazy throw and get that guy, get the wide open guy a touchdown under pressure, or if you're under pressure, you got to take the check down and get a completion instead of panicking and not doing either. So I think he is getting better. I think the eyes thing is something that you can fix. I think looking down and like breaking down plays is something he's probably not had to do at USC because he was so good at playing quarterback, so good at evading pressure and making crazy stuff happen that, famously Coach Riley, who I also think is a fucking terrible coach, was probably just letting him do that shit. Like, he was just like, yeah, go out there and like, this is the play, but I don't care what you do as long as you score touchdowns. And in the NFL, that's just not going to happen. And so hopefully they turn it around this season, because I think Caleb Williams shows a lot of potential, and I want to see that potential kind of manifest immediately. But if not, I think Caleb is still a franchise guy. I think he's going to be very good for very long. It's just I was a little bit too high on him to start his career.
Yeah, I was never a big Caleb Williams fan. I think he was overhyped, like in the sense that people were expecting him to be like, this quarterback god and bring the Bears like out of poverty like immediately. And I just never got on that hype train. He might end up being that, and I hope he does. I mean, he's shown some flashes and some good plays, but like you said, making rookie mistakes, and that's just something you learn and grow on, basically. So
yeah, and really, like I said, the biggest issue are rookie mistakes, and that's completely understandable. He's terrible under pressure, but almost every rookie quarterback is. So
yeah. Well, I'll get into my next report card here. My score of the Lions missing the playoffs. I have that at a B- for me right now. I'm not ready to give up on this take quite yet, but it's not looking good for me. The Lions, after the first 2 weeks, was when I made this take, when they lost to the Buccaneers and had a narrow win over the Rams. I said, I could see them going 500, just missing the playoffs, somewhere around there, maybe being like the 8 or 9 seed in the NFC, and just missing off or something along those lines. They've looked better these past 2 weeks, especially Monday night against the Seahawks. They looked really, really good. If they can keep up that type of play, I think they'll definitely be okay. They still have somewhat of a relatively hard schedule. I mean, the Packers, they play them twice. You can never count the Packers out. Vikings have been very hot this year. They still have to play them twice. They have the Cowboys coming up here soon, Texans. So, I mean, they still have a relatively hard schedule. And if they are winning these games by close, I could also see them losing these games by a score or two. So I think this takes sort of still in the middle of the road. We still, I think, more towards like halfway through the season. I'll have a better idea of if this takes really good or really bad. But I think I'm just going to give myself like a solid B, maybe a B minus, just based on how their record's going right now and how they
Yeah.
played Monday night. But I mean, the Lions, if they can figure it out, they'll be fine. But if
Yeah.
they play like they did against the Rams or the Bucks, it's going to be a tough season for them in general.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think giving yourself a B there is a really good score. I think fortunately we are, less than 24 hours from the Lions playing, in an amazing game that
Right.
maybe in our game of the week if we had enough turnaround. But missing the playoffs that's a tough B. They are in a tough conference or a
Right.
tough division, not a tough conference. They're in a tough division. They have some tough opponents. They pretty handily beat a really good Seahawks team last night. So, yeah, I think it would be surprising if they missed the playoffs. It's definitely possible.
Like I said, though, if they do miss the playoffs, it's going to be by like one seed or something like that, like just missing. It's not like they're going to,
Yeah,
be the 15 seed or something like that and completely miss
yeah,
out. Like,
yeah. I think it would take a series of like really bad games from Jared Goff too. I think it would probably take like he has like a stretch of 4 games where he's like a bottom 10 quarterback in the league. And I'm not a huge Jared Goff guy, which is a weird thing to say after he goes 18 for 18 and catches a touchdown pass. But
mhm,
I'm not a Jared Goff guy. I do think that he has the potential to have some stinkers in him. So
yeah.
hopefully, hopefully he doesn't. I like the Lions are rooting for him, but yeah, that take is probably not going to age well. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it could, but like I said, I think B average right now, just middle of the road's fine for right now after 4 weeks.
Yeah. Hey, I coasted by B minuses all through high school, man, and I
All right, let's get into our upsets and locks of this coming week. I'm going to start with my upset pick. I am having the Jets upsetting the Vikings. I think this is going to be an Aaron Rodgers game where he bounces back, better weather. I think the Vikings are going to finally lose their first game of the season. It has to happen sooner or later. I don't think the Vikings are going undefeated. I think this is a perfect game. I wouldn't say perfect game, but like the most likely game for them to lose. Aaron Rodgers has played the Vikings quite a bit of times and knows a lot about the franchise and how they operate, how to beat them. So I think Aaron Rodgers playing against the Vikings is the biggest advantage for the Jets here. And I think the Vikings are finally going to lose their first game of the season.
yeah, I like the take. I think that is an interesting pick. I think both of those teams right now, they're a bit hard to read. I think the Vikings are legit, but you have to wonder Sam Darnold returning back to the Jets, revenge game maybe on the line. I don't know. We'll see.
Good. I mean, there's a lot of intermingling between players and previous teams and how they all operate. So, I mean, you could see, Sam Darnold understanding how the Jets play and do really
Yeah.
good against them. But I just think this is Aaron Rodgers' game to actually win this week. So,
Yeah.
and then I will get right into my lock of the week. I actually have the Commanders over the Browns. I think the
Wow.
Commanders are just riding a high. I don't think the Browns are like an overall good team. They sort of scrape by on wins. And I think the Commanders are still going to be riding that high into like a weak Browns team. So if I had to pick a game that is guaranteed to have a winner, like, and no chance of an upset whatsoever, like, it's going to be the Commanders over the Browns for me here.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely rooting for Jaden Daniels. I'm hoping that this is the game that Deshaun Watson gets benched or gets hurt.
We
Honestly,
can only hope.
either or, I don't give a fuck. I want to see some Jameis Winston gameplay here. So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, if that happens, maybe the Commanders will lose. I'm going to get into my upset pick of the week. My upset pick will be the Saints beating the Chiefs. I think they're on a little bit of a slide here. They went 2-0, were the best team in football, and then they kind of slid, and now they're 0-2 in the past couple of weeks, losing to the Falcons and then losing a nail biter to the Eagles the week before. I think that the Chiefs are starting to with the loss of Rashee Rice getting his knee taken out by Pat Mahomes said, "Fuck it, I don't need any receivers on the field. I'm just going to do what I want." And I think that's going to kind of catch up with them. They already lost Marquise Hollywood Brown. They just lost Rashee Rice. Travis Kelce looks like he's in his retirement already. He's
Right.
too busy, I don't know, with his shitty podcast. I would like to start a beef with the Kelsey podcast. No, I'm just kidding. He looks like he's a little bit out of shape. Doesn't really look like he's very passionate about the game, which is I didn't expect to see from him. And so I think this Saints team that's kind of looking to rebound, I think they're going to be able to shut down Pat Mahomes, and then their offense will probably have to catch back on fire here for them to win this game. But I think it's definitely possible. I like their odds in this game. I think it's a perfect time to kind of strike at the Chiefs when they're kind of dealing with all these injuries, and up to Pat Mahomes to play hero ball. So that's going to be my upset pick. I don't know what the money line is. This is Dylan's expertise, is the betting stuff. So I don't know. I would say take the spread or not, but I will say Saints to upset Chiefs. I really like that pick. And then for my lock, not to be the guy who picks against the Panthers, but I'm locking the Bears against the Panthers. Like I said before, I think that the Bears offense is improving every single week. Caleb Williams is improving every single week. They're getting healthier. Their defense is very quietly, this is another thing I could have talked about on the report card. Their defense is very quietly a very, very good defense, top 5 in the league right now. Their corners are looking really, really good, and their pass rush is getting there when it needs to. So I just think that's going to be too much for Andy Dalton to handle. And there's also been rumors, apparently, that Bryce Young might come back soon.
Oh, boy.
So,
How great would that be?
If that is something that is even an option, like, holy shit, that would be a terrible game for Bryce Young to come back to.
Seriously.
If it is, I think that is an easy lock. And I think it's already kind of a lock right now with Andy Dalton. I just think the way they played against the Bengals, you kind of saw that Panthers mentality kind of come back out. Yeah, Panthers playing the Bengals. You saw that Panthers mentality kind of come back where they were out of the game after the first Jamar Chase touchdown. They kind of beat themselves and gave up a little bit. So I'm locking the Bears. I think they have one of the best defenses in the league. I think they have a really good quarterback who is able to improve every week. I really like the Bears here.
I do like the Bears over the Panthers. The Saints, though, you got to learn, Brian. You never bet against the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I'm going to continue to do it because fuck the Chiefs. And fuck Kansas City for beating my O's today, too. Fuck Kansas City. Fuck the whole place.
Right. But I think that'll do it for us today. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Like we said at the beginning, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the things. We love you all, and tell us where we went wrong. Please, we love the feedback, and can't wait to see you guys next week.
Yeah.
See ya.
Fastest missed.